In Good Shape, your weekly dose of health information on Deutsche Welle. Find out more about what's new in medical treatment, alternative medicine, as well as nutrition, wellness, and beauty. Medical professionals, therapists, and counselors are in our studio to offer their expert advice on In Good Shape.
And the science of happiness and how to achieve long-lasting bliss is the area of expertise of my guest in the studio today, a biologist and happiness coach, Dr. Katrin Beckmann. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Dr. Beckmann, what do the latest studies say? How much does our being happy or not really influence our health?
Yeah, there's a very clear correlation between happiness and our health. And you already mentioned the very interesting studies on the cardiovascular system. And what I also find very intriguing is that happiness can actually prevent getting a common cold and help with the symptoms. And there the scientists did one really interesting study where they invited participants to a hotel, and the people were isolated in their rooms and were infected with the common cold. And then the scientists measured their symptoms and also asked them about how they felt. And the people who were happier beforehand reported lesser symptoms, so they complained less, and they also actually had measurably less symptoms of the common cold, fewer runny noses, basically. And that's really interesting that you can...
Yeah. So as a biologist, maybe you can explain to us what happens there in the body, what happens when we're happy?
Yes, sure. And specifically to that, the immune system is weaker when you're not in a good mood. And that was shown in a theater study where people invited students to act on stage, act out good moods or bad moods, and they took blood samples. And they found that the students who were only acting the bad moods had actually fewer immune system cells in their blood. So it was measurable directly.
Mm-hmm. So you can actually measure on that example with the immune systems, on the immune cells in the blood, you can measure the effect of the hormones that sort of circulate in the body, and that's what influences our health?
Yes, the very important in that regard are the stress hormones. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
yes.
Well, stress hormones have a negative effect.
Right.
But with happiness, some people always seem to be happy, no matter really what happens to them, and others always seem to be a bit down. Is there something like a genetic predisposition for being happy or not?
There's supposed to be a certain degree of predisposition, but it's really, really difficult to distinguish between nature and nurture. So scientists really have that problem. And in the past, scientists believed that there's a certain happiness set point, and whatever happens positive or negative, people return to the set point. But now there are many, many studies which show that that is actually not the case. Mm-hmm. So there are things like unemployment, where people stay more unhappy, or marriage, where they stay more happy. So there's a lot you can do for your happiness.
So developing self-confidence and doing things that you're good at is set to help you to be happier. You're a happiness coach. Can you give us a quick session, please?
Yeah, sure. So it's most important that you are actually happy a lot of the time. And it was found that happy people are happy 80% and more of the time. So that's quite a lot. So during a regular stressful day, that seems quite far away and very difficult. So what I usually start with people is mindfulness training. And being mindful actually means learning to find out what's going on in your body and to find out what are your actual needs and taking your needs seriously. And to start to exchange that inner critical voice for a very nurturing and loving one. Mm-hmm.
So sort of becoming your best friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Is there an exercise that you can recommend, something that you can incorporate into your day-to-day life?
Yes, there's one that sounds really simple, but that is really effective. And that comes from Will Bowen, he's called. And it's just any bracelet you have at hand. And what you do is, whenever you catch yourself only saying, not thinking, saying something negative, like complaining, you put it onto the other wrist. And then when you catch yourself again, you put it back, and so on and so forth. And what happens is that you start listening to what you're saying. And the more you hear how negative you speak, the less you will do so. And the less you will speak negatively, the less you will think negatively. And that has a very strong effect on your mood.
So again, sort of thinking positive and reminding yourself of that, that's the idea. As you said before, being happy a lot of the time, thinking positive a lot of the time, that's the idea behind that.
Yeah. And rather being constructive than complaining.
Okay, so those are things that can help you to be happier. What else is there? What should people focus on? There's lots of studies about what makes people happy.
Right. So really important is to invest into relationship. And it was found that happy people have a much easier time doing that. So really surround yourself with meaningful relationships, people who support you. And of course also helping others, being of purpose is part of that. And finding some reason for living that is greater than your own ego or larger than your own ego. That's really important. Gratitude is very important. And also learning something new, you already showed that. And also very important is to take care of your body, to actually exercise and get enough rest and eat well.
So again, sort of be mindful,
right.
Watch yourself, watch your relationships, and take time to make yourself happy. Sounds easy, but it's probably not as easy as it sounds. Well, what's your personal happiness recipe? What do you do?
Well, I do check in with myself a lot, and it becomes automatic over time. And when stress hits, I use a variety of tools to stop that and come back to my joy and actually settle down and calm down.
And concentrate on what's joyful in your life, maybe?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. You can also count the happiness points.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all that good advice. Thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you very much.